So this is the next to next to last video for the semester, and our main goal here is to figure out what does Genet think about power, about how it works, and how does he show that with the last interaction between Roger, George, and Irma. So first of all, one of the important things to think about is that Ionesco gives some odd instructions in his plays, right? Like when we do the Bald Soprano, what we see in the Bald Soprano is, of course, that they're drinking an English tea and having an English evening, and the clock is ringing English chimes. So it's ridiculous, right? It's sort of a, if you want, sort of an Easter egg for somebody who's reading the play instead of actually there in person watching it. In Genet, we get something. There we go. Always both of them, right? There we go. Oh, that's fantastic. Good. For Genet, we get something very similar. We see that when we get to the last scene in the play, we no longer see Irma. We see the Queen. Genet changes the people's names to reflect their change in rank. Now, is anybody on a stage going to be conveying this, directly? Is anybody in an audience going to be seeing this directly? No. But we do see that Genet does have these people truly standing in for the roles that they are playing. This is an important part of the way that Genet sees this play. And in the final interaction between Roger and George, we see as well something that is, I think, really fascinating. First of all, the fact that George is overjoyed because he is finally being played. He has finally taken his place in sort of the hall of fame when it comes to being a part of the balcony. And they've been working, right, on this scenario for a while to try to make sure that it gets put together. Who is playing him? Well, it happens to be Roger. It happens to be the leader, or the former leader, of the rebels. And it's significant to see that Roger is portraying the chief of police because Roger has been against the chief of police, and he realizes, perhaps in defeat, that the real power was in these images, right? And that the real power was in these symbols. And so when Roger shows up to play the chief of police in this scenario, he is both confirming that the nomenclature of the balcony, the hierarchy of the balcony now has a new member, and also reinforcing the fact that the chief of police is seen as a true figure of power in the city, and especially now that the rebellion is over. But what does Roger do with this scenario? Well, Roger comes in, he asks whether people are truly believe in the image, of course, of the chief of police as it is projected. He asks questions of the person, the beggar, who is there to sort of sing his praises. And then, at the very end, he castrates himself before the scenario is over. And in what way do we see this? In what way does Genet present this? I think, and again, there's a lot of interpretations. You may have a different interpretation as well. I believe that Roger also realizes that, as a holder of the symbolic power, he can do what he wants to strip the power of its power, right? He gets to do with the power what he wants. And so his idea is, I will castrate myself as the chief of police, and therefore the chief of police will be castrated, right? So it's a way of taking the power and then abusing it, right? George, when he goes down then to see the room where he's been immortalized, right, after all of this has happened, also decides that he prefers the power in that room to his actual power. He goes into the tomb, he descends into the tomb, right, to sort of become himself within himself, right? He is the chief of police, playing the chief of police, right? Power sort of doubling back on itself. And then the scenario is basically over, right? Irma reminds everybody that it's time to go home, sends everybody away, the revolution starts again. The cyclical nature of power and the fragility of power and the idea of trying to fight the powers that be once again becomes the name of the game, right? And Irma reminds us as an audience that once we leave the theater, we're back to our lives, right? Everything feels less real than it does when we are in a theater, right? We can believe in what's going on stage because there's no reason for us not to believe it, but do we actually believe in our own lives? So I think right there, that's a really important sort of philosophical question that Irma is asking us, right? That she has power in this one area, and it is a strong form of power because it is all based on symbol. It is not based in the reality of the power. It's based in the image of the power, which is uncorruptible, right? So, at the end of the play, I think we look and we think about, what does true power mean to us? Where do we see ourselves when it comes to power? Do we believe those that are in power above us? What stops us from disbelieving it? What stops us from disbelieving in the power that instructors have, that the police have, that the government has, right? There's a very sort of fine line between wanting to think about something and thinking about it too hard. I think this could very well be one of those areas where we do end up having to really think about the way that it works, right? Genet does a very good job within this absurd play of really reminding us that there are some big realities out there that may be a little bit more complicated. So, in our last video, at the very end, I'm going to sort of wrap up the season, the semester, and we will sort of put a bow on everything, if you will.